Hey there, curious listener. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Hello?
Today, we're doing something a little different, actually. Really interesting. We're going to crack open a source you shared with us.
That's right. It's an interview transcript from the V Etc. YouTube channel.
Yeah, featuring the very captivating fashion figure, Shyn.
And what's really cool about this one, what makes it stand out right away, is how it's structured.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your typical Q&A. This whole conversation about her life, her career, it's guided by tarot card readings.
Right. Prompting discussion across, what was it, 3 areas: personality, career, and relationships.
Exactly.
So our mission with this deep dive, it's, more than just summarizing.
Yeah, we really want to get into the important stuff.
Pull out those key insights, maybe the surprising bits, and really walk you through her journey based on this interview.
Like a guided tour almost.
Exactly, highlighting what we think matters most just for you listening.
Okay, let's dive in. It's a really rich account, very personal, covers like a whole decade in the public eye.
And all framed by this, intriguing use of tarot cards as a tool for reflection.
So let's start right there with that unique format.
Okay?
Using a tarot card for each section, personality, career, relationships, to kind of anchor the conversation.
And what's fascinating straight away is her own view on tarot.
Oh yeah, that was interesting. She mentioned having some negative experiences in the past.
Right, where future predictions felt like they almost caused things to happen. Self-fulfilling prophecies.
Exactly, and that really affected her. So because of that, she's a bit wary, hesitant about using cards for strict predictions now.
But she's totally open to using them like this as prompts.
Yeah, just as a way to open up discussion about her past, her present. Not fortune-telling, more reflection.
Okay. It sets a really personal tone right from the start, doesn't it?
It really does. Almost therapeutic.
So the first section, personality, that was prompted by the 3 of Pentacles card.
Right. Now, often that card means collaboration, teamwork, that kind of thing.
But in this interview,
The interpretation they used was more about her personality, suggesting she's someone who cannot live without friends.
okay. And her reaction, this is where we get that first glimpse of her growth, right?
Totally. She said, in the past, that really resonated. She felt she did constantly need friends around, always socializing, needing to vent.
But now?
Now she's evolved. She actually feels she can genuinely enjoy being alone sometimes.
That's a big shift.
Huge. Though she still really values close connections. She made that clear. Stressed the importance of having maybe 1 or 2 really close friends, soulmates, she called them.
So the insight isn't just about liking company or not, it's deeper. It's about developing a stronger sense of self.
Exactly. Not relying purely on that external validation or needing constant social buzz.
And the interview goes into that past personality a bit more.
Oh, yeah. She described herself back then as very free-spirited, maybe a bit naive, innocent even.
And highly expressive.
Super expressive, showing emotions like annoyance really easily.
Right.
On her face, or just saying exactly what she thought. Not much of a filter back then.
Okay, and then we hit this turning point she mentioned.
Yeah, this is key. She talks about a pretty significant incident when she was around 15 or 16. An early shock, she called it.
A negative online review, or like public criticism.
Exactly. In Vietnamese online culture, they often call it a phoot. This one was apparently about her expressing discomfort, pretty publicly, with a makeup artist's work, or maybe their products.
Oof. At 15 or 16, that sounds rough.
Yeah, and she said it blew up online. It became this really crucial moment for her.
How so?
She says it directly pushed her towards being more professional, more deliberate about controlling those public emotional displays.
A very tough public lesson early on.
For sure. The insight there is how just one really intense negative experience can totally reshape how you manage your public self, right?
Definitely. So how does she feel about that change now, looking back?
Well, she reflects that she feels like she's lost some of that, carefree innocence, that spontaneity. Now she admits she's more cautious, overthinks things sometimes, actions, even thoughts, before putting them out there.
And viewers have noticed.
Apparently, yeah. She mentioned people commenting that she seems less outwardly cheerful than she used to be.
So it kind of shows the trade-off, right?
Yeah, you gain that professional control, but maybe lose some of that raw, spontaneous feeling.
So if she's not doing that spontaneous emotional stuff online, how does she express her, bolder side now?
That's a good question. She says she channels it more through her visual style, her cool or edgy fashion choices, the curated photos online.
Right. Less through raw diary entry type posts, more through the aesthetic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she's really deliberate about why she limits that kind of raw sharing.
Why is that?
She just really dislikes writing long negative posts. She wants her social media to be a positive space.
Doesn't want to add to the negativity online.
Right. And doesn't want her bad moods to drag others down. She only writes long posts if it's really necessary,
Right.
like an apology or for a specific cause, like charity work.
That's quite a conscious choice about her online impact, prioritizing positivity over, say, using her platform to vent.
Yeah, it's strategic.
Mm,
So if she's not venting online, how does she deal with negative feelings?
good point. Privately.
Privately, yeah. She talks to those close friends, her soulmates. She travels, hits the gym.
Okay.
She also describes herself as naturally quite optimistic. So she feels she doesn't actually need to vent online to cope.
Hmm.
Her private methods work for her.
That shows a pretty clear boundary between her public work and her private life, which isn't always the case for influencers.
Not at all. One other thing from that personality section that stood out.
What's that?
External influence. She acknowledged that in the past, she used to be quite easily influenced by people around her.
Ah.
She even used a Vietnamese proverb, something like near red becomes bright, near ink becomes dark.
Yeah.
You know, you're shaped by your environment.
Right. But
Now she feels she has much more self-control. Her own independent opinions are more firmly held.
so a real maturation there, from being easily swayed to having a stronger inner compass.
Definitely.
Okay, so moving on from personality to her career then.
Yeah, the next section used the moon card as a prompt.
The moon card, often about feeling a bit lost, uncertainty, navigating unclear paths.
Exactly. And she's been in the public eye for, what, over 10 years now?
Wow. Yeah, that's a long time in the digital world.
It really is. And she identifies herself now primarily as an influencer
Okay.
and secondarily as a stylist. But she knows that's more for her own enjoyment, her personal expression online, not like taking on styling clients generally.
Gotcha. So her reaction to the moon card suggesting feeling lost.
She agreed, actually, but said that was more true maybe 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Now she feels she has a much clearer direction, knows what she needs to do.
So that shift from uncertainty to clarity over the last 5 years, that's a big part of her career story.
A huge part. And tracing back where her passion started. It's quite relatable, actually.
How so?
It began really young. Just a deep love for taking photos, editing them, putting them online.
Just for fun.
Yeah. And she even said her daily mood could depend on how good her photos turned out that day.
Wow, an early sign of how important visual expression would become for her.
Totally. But she didn't just stick with that initial thing. She explored other paths, too.
Like what?
She tried acting. Ugh, quite extensively, apparently. And even film production.
Really?
Yeah. Spent about a year really trying different approaches, different roles in that area.
Yeah.
Ultimately, she found it too challenging or maybe just not the right fit. It didn't feel successful to her.
So she went back to fashion.
Exactly. It felt like coming home, she said. Realizing her true passion really was in the photography, the fashion side of things.
Interesting.
She described it as things just falling into place, flowing easily when she refocused there.
That's a powerful insight, isn't it? Sometimes finding your path isn't about just pushing harder through challenges.
Right. It's about recognizing where things feel natural, where you hit that flow state. That can tell you a lot.
And her platform use is key to her long career, too, right? The evolution there.
Absolutely. Started on Instagram. Really early adopter, one of the early hot girls. Super skilled with it when it was just getting big, like 2011, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Then later, she consciously expanded. Added YouTube as well as Instagram, then Facebook, then TikTok.
Managing all those platforms, that sounds like a huge challenge for influencers now.
Oh, it is. The constant need for unique content tailored for each one.
Different styles for each audience, right? Instagram for the edgy fashion.
YouTube for maybe broader styling ideas, more fun stuff.
TikTok for humor, being silly.
Exactly. It takes a massive amount of effort.
Yeah.
And she's open about relying heavily on her team for ideas and support.
So that seemingly effortless online presence?
It's actually the result of huge multi-platform strategy and teamwork. Definitely not effortless.
She mentioned feeling a bit lost on TikTok initially.
Yeah, she did. Felt it was maybe too young or the style wasn't her natural fit at first. It took some adjustment.
But she found her groove there now.
Clearly.
Mm.
Posts frequently seems comfortable.
And she talked about the pressure from Gen Z trends.
She did. Said initially she felt she maybe had to follow those popular trends like the short funny clips on TikTok.
But not anymore.
Now she focuses more on creating content from her own life, her fashion knowledge, just presented in a TikTok way, and says it's well received.
So moving from feeling pressured to conform to confidently making her own style of content, that's maturity.
Definitely. Forging her own niche.
And her shift to being a go-to person for brands, she linked that back to the film production attempt not working out.
Yeah, interestingly, after that setback, she said she felt this surge of energy, like renewed commitment.
Okay.
And she invested heavily in building a really unique, distinct image. She used a specific Vietnamese phrase.
Oh, yeah.
Da Hong Jung Ai. Roughly means unique, distinctive, not like anyone else. That became her explicit brand philosophy.
Wow. So really doubling down on uniqueness.
Exactly. That consistent focus through her photos, her style curation, that's what attracted brands looking for something original.
So the setback actually fueled a strategic pivot, led to a stronger brand identity.
Seems like it. And her style evolution itself over the whole decade. School uniforms, then sweet styles, then just constant transformation.
What drives that constant change?
She says simply she dislikes being bored or predictable.
Fair enough.
She genuinely enjoys not quite knowing what her next project or look will be.
Right.
And she sees these changes as lining up with her personality evolving, different life stages, like a visual diary.
How does she handle the potential judgment that comes with always changing, taking risks with her look?
She claims she doesn't really fear judgment if an outfit isn't seen as, traditionally pretty or unique enough.
Really?
Instead, she finds wearing new, bold stuff actually boosts her confidence, helps her express that bolder inner self, which is interesting considering she mentioned being quite shy in the past.
So fashion isn't just about looking good, it's a tool for her, for empowerment, expressing herself, overcoming old inhibitions.
Exactly. That's a really powerful insight from her perspective.
And her take on trends, she's not just copying what's popular.
No, definitely not. Not direct copying of things like Y2K or coquette style.
Yeah.
She prefers genuine uniqueness.
So taking inspiration but mixing it up.
Yeah, making it her own. She specifically looks for rare items, unpopular pieces sometimes, to build her looks.
And she doesn't worry about shocking people.
Doesn't seem like it. She relies on her own feeling, her own sense of beauty and confidence, even if others judge at first.
She mentioned a big style shift in 2019.
Right. Said it was met with resistance initially, but people came around eventually. It proved her intuition was right for her own aesthetic direction.
And now brands seek her out for those bolder looks.
Exactly. It validates her approach. The insight is that leading with authenticity, even if it gets pushed back first, can build a stronger brand than just following the crowd.
And when she makes those big style shifts, she just commits.
Fully commits. Once she decides to change, no second guessing, no going back to the old style, she feels like that would undermine the whole change.
That decisiveness seems key.
It does.
There's also that bit about family dynamics back in high school.
Oh yeah, an interesting detail. Conflict with parents who understandably prioritize schoolwork. She was a good student, apparently.
So she had to balance the early modeling, the photography, with studying.
Yeah, faced pressure, especially around graduation exams. But her good results eventually gave her more freedom to choose her path in university. Shows that balancing act, right? Pursuing passion while meeting expectations.
And finally, on career, that interesting mature versus Gen Z idea.
Right. She feels she's somewhere in between millennial and Gen Z.
How so?
Her style leans Gen Z now, feels most authentic and comfortable to her. But her personality, she feels, is maybe bigger than typical Gen Z, but not quite fully mature like a millennial yet.
So she adapts her style based on context, job, mood.
Yeah, but leans Gen Z currently because it aligns best with her vibe right now, lively, positive.
And she sees Gen Z as more than just age.
More like a mindset, a personality type. She follows what feels right for her, not just chasing a trend demographic. It highlights how fluid identity can be now. Personal feeling over strict labels.
Okay, so that wraps up the career section. Let's move to the final part. Relationships.
All right. This section was guided by the Ace of Cups card.
Ace of Cups. Usually means new emotional starts, right?
Uh-huh.
Fulfillment, abundance, knowing what you want.
That's the typical vibe, yeah. And she related directly to where she is now.
Saying she's in a good place.
Yeah, feels she's currently in a stable, connected relationship.
And a key thing she mentioned was the connection to her work.
Yes. Her partner also works in fashion. So they can share that interest, talk about shows, give each other opinions on style.
That shared world is important for their connection then.
It seems to be. It reinforces her view on valuing shared interest, compatibility, over just, say, prioritizing a partner who's a provider.
So for her, a good relationship integrates with her passions and work rather than being totally separate.
Exactly. But she was also really open about having difficulties in past relationships.
Both romantic and friendship.
Both, yeah. And she attributed those issues partly to her former self, being naive, maybe overly innocent,
How did that cause problems?
expressing thoughts too freely, maybe without enough tact, not realizing how others might perceive her good intentions, like offering critiques meant to be helpful.
But they came across as harsh judgment.
Right, which led to conflict. It shows a real learning curve in communication, emotional intelligence in relationships.
So how does she approach things differently now?
She says she's changed, offers unsolicited opinions way less often, only gives genuine advice if someone asks for it.
More conscious about interfering in others' decisions?
Exactly. Respecting boundaries more, communicating more thoughtfully, a clear maturation.
Her network, her friends, also play a role. Positively.
Yeah, particularly in motivating her career.
Yeah.
Having friends in fashion, friends in the Gen Z community. Seeing their achievements creates this positive pressure.
Keeps her working, evolving.
Seems like it.
And despite her work being so demanding, even travel involves shooting content. She doesn't feel burned out.
She emphasizes she genuinely enjoys it, so it doesn't feel like burnout. But she does take conscious breaks.
Like massages, gym time?
Yeah, when she feels tired.
Yeah.
So there's an awareness there, needing recovery even when you love your work.
She also talked about handling breakups.
Acknowledge the pain. She's been through the end of significant relationships, love, and friendships.
It's tough. Grief, crying, all that.
All of it. But she also described herself as very decisive when she knows it's truly over. She used that phrase, "don't tuit,"
Which means?
like a clean break, a severance.
So how does she know when it's time?
Seems to rely on an intuitive feeling, that gut sense that it's really done.
And once the decision's made?
No dwelling, no trying to revisit it. She might have nostalgic thoughts sometimes, but they stay memories.
That decisiveness again. Same as with her style changes. Seems core to how she moves forward.
It really does.
And looking back on her whole journey this decade, how does she feel about it overall?
Her reflection was quite grounded, actually. Humble. She feels okay about where she is.
Just okay, not excellent.
Not yet excellent, she said. Believes she still has potential to do more.
Still ambitious then, despite everything she's achieved.
Definitely. And the interview wraps up nicely, her thanking the host, the listener, saying she enjoyed revisiting these topics.
And looking forward to maybe checking in again later. Suggests her journey's still ongoing.
For sure.
So, reflecting on this whole deep dive, based on the source you shared with us, what are the really big takeaways?
Well, for me, it's that incredible journey of self-discovery, right? And the constant adaptation needed to thrive for a decade in that intense online world.
Absolutely. And the resilience, too. Overcoming those early setbacks, the criticism, like that vote incident.
Yeah, finding that unique identity through deliberate fashion choices, creative expression, that's central.
And navigating that balance between the polished public persona and protecting her private emotional self.
Definitely. And understanding how relationships and career paths evolve, especially now with multiple platforms, fast trends, all the pressures.
Her story really shows how personal growth, professional strategy, and relationships are all tangled up together.
And remember, this whole exploration was drawn directly from that interview transcript you provided, curated just to help you unpack its key insights and the journey she described.
So here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to think about building on these themes. As we all navigate these increasingly public digital spaces, how does that pressure to adapt, to curate, to present different versions of ourselves online, how does that shape your own identity and relationships? And what part of your authentic self are you consciously choosing to protect or maybe express in that space?
Something to mull over. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.